All right, this is Brigham and Houston's Fundamentals of Financial Management, Concise 10th edition, problem 5-35. And this is an amortization schedule with a balloon payment. A balloon payment is a large payment at the end, fairly common in real estate, but as you'll see when you do bonds in a future module, uh, virtually all bonds come with balloon payments. They're interest only for a while, and then they have a big balloon payment where you repay all the principal at the end. All right, that's the typical bond. In real estate, this is fairly common. The balloon payment just means it's one big old future value payment. So let's walk through this, and then we'll do what they want us to do, and then we'll demonstrate the amortization table. Number of periods, rate, PV, FE, PMT. All right, if the loan is amortized over 3 years, how much must the loan be for, or the loan payments be? All right, so what it's saying is that the seller will take a $126,000 mortgage. You're going to pay $14,000 down, and the mortgage is at a rate of 5%. Okay, so at 5%, 5% over 3 years, 126,000 is the principal, no future value without the balloon payment. The payments are going to be pretty substantial. They're about a third, a little over a third of 126,000. All right, so to solve for payment, set up rate, number of periods, present value, and future value. Okay. And then if I hit OK on there, that means each payment's $46,000 and change. Okay, since my limit's $22,000 a year, I sure can't afford that. If we made it into a 30-year loan, I could afford that, but it isn't a 30-year loan, it's a 3-year loan. So I could afford the payments if it was a 30-year loan, because those payments are $8,000 a year. Make it look pretty, currency, but I can't afford the payments if they're going to come once a year for 3 years. That would be the absolute value of that. All right, satisfy the seller. The 30-year loan could be written as a balloon payment, which means at the end of the 3rd year, you'd make a big old payment. Okay, so if we set this thing up, let's say your balloon payment was $100,000. That's just going to be the same sign as the PMTs. All right, well, that's too much. If we went to negative $80,000, okay, that's close to what I can afford. Or another way of doing this, of course, would be to simply solve for the amount of the payment. If I can pay $22,000 a year, what's got to be the balloon payment at the end of the period? Okay, and that would be, if the rate was 5% and it was for 3 periods, and I know that the payment is $22,000, and I know that the future value, or the present value rather, is 126. That tells me that a balloon payment, if I promise to give a balloon payment of $76,505.75 at the end of the 3 year, that would accomplish that. Now I could have set up an amortization schedule and done the same thing, or there's actually other tricks of the trade here with Excel that would have done that. the beginning balance, if I started by owing them $126,000, and then the payment would be $22,000. The interest portion in the first year would be at 5%. 5% of 126,000, I'd owe them 6,300 in interest. So the principal would be whatever I sent on my 22,000 I can afford minus 6,300. So the ending balance after the first year will be 126,000 minus the 15,700 principal I paid. Okay, and so we would start the next year where I would owe 110,300 still. I'd make the same $22,000 payment. Now the interest would be only 5% of 110,330, right? Equals 5% of the lesser amount, because I'm only paying interest on the unpaid portion, which would mean that the principal would be that much higher, and I would pay the loan down to $93,815, which is where I start the next year. I send a $22,000 payment. The interest would again be 5% of what I owe them still, which would mean that the principal I'd pay would be $17,309 with that payment, and I would still owe them $76,506, which I get from taking what the beginning balance is of $93.85 and then subtracting the $17,309 of principal. And so $76,506 as after the third payment. The balloon would be $76,506. Now, there are a lot of different ways to have solved this. Again, you could use NIPVFE payment. The amortization schedule works, and frankly, you know, although you're doing it the hard way here in Excel with the amortization table, you can actually see what you're doing as opposed to just trusting the calculator. There are also some shortcuts built into Excel that you could solve for that same number, but we'll save those for a rainy day.